Hello and welcome to episode 2 of SomerKnits. This is my second try at recording it, and hopefully I have found a place with enough light that it is not grainy. My house is very shaded, so depending on time of day, it's very hard to find well-lit areas, and my chair from last time is currently stuffed with all of the camping stuff that my husband swears is going to be put away any minute now. But just to get started, I wanted to talk a little bit more about my knitting history, since in the first episode I didn't really go into that. I've been knitting for about 20 years. I learned to knit from my grandmother. I learned to crochet as a very small child from my great-grandmother, and then in college took it up again, and then decided I would really like to learn to knit, and fell in love with the drape of knitted fabric. I still like to crochet. I crochet things like washcloths and things that need more sturdiness and thickness to them, but I really love the drape of knitted fabric, and so I really fell down the knitting rabbit hole, and it's just been that way ever since. It didn't take me long to really lose myself in the craft and develop a true passion for it. So let's start with what I'm wearing. It will segue straight into recently finished objects because this is my ranunculus sweater. It's been on my to-do list forever. It's just been sitting in my queue. I know that practically everyone has made one, but I was talking to Brogan from the Woolly Witchcraft podcast, and it was on her to-do list, and we were just conversing over Instagram. And I was like, you should just start a knit along and I'll do it. And so she decided to do that and announced it on her podcast while my family was camping. So I didn't have a chance to film yet. But I went ahead and cast mine on, and you can check the hashtag, which I'll put on the screen. But it is WW for Woolly Witchcraft, Ranunculus Cowl. And it's a very loose cowl, and it's ongoing. And there's no deadlines or pressure or anything, but we'd love for you to join us in knitting them. This is definitely not going to be the last one that I do because it was a really addictive pattern and I really enjoyed it. So this one was made with a sock kit from Southern Skeins sock yarn. And I think the name had something to do with strawberries, but it's a pretty variegated sock yarn, but I don't think so much so that you lose the lace in it. And then I finished the hem with the mini that complemented the main skein. And the mini was called Strawberry Lemonade. And so it still had little flecks of the pink in it, so that it segued nicely into that. I wanted to add length to the body, and I knew you could do the short sleeve ranunculus with just a 400-yard skein. But since I wanted to add length, I went ahead and went for 1.5 times the length from the underarm that the pattern called for, and then did the ribbing in the pattern length with the mini skein. And I thought that was a fun way to do it. You can see that the sleeves have a little bit of a ruffle to them right now because I blocked them rather aggressively. I think when I do this pattern again, I will add some length to the sleeves instead of binding off immediately. For the sleeves, I'll probably put the stitches on hold and go a little bit longer. And I haven't decided if I'd add ribbing or just go ahead and bind it off so they're loose and floaty like they are in the pattern. But I really love it. It's the perfect weight for right now where I live. It is over 90 degrees every day. Tomorrow it's going to be 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and it's very humid, and so there's not a lot of knitwear being worn. So I was really delighted to make this lightweight tee. I wore it to work on Monday. It's beautiful and it's comfortable, and I will totally be making another one. I seem to fall in love with all the patterns that Knit Cafe Midori comes out with. I have done the Sadawal tee, and I want to do that one again because I did it in a worsted weight before, and I would like to do it in a fingering weight to see just the difference, the drape and the fit. But I loved that pattern, and then there was a new one that just came out that I am dying to do as well. And I can't recall the name of it, but I'll throw it on the screen. Anyway, so back to the cowl. If you would like to join in the knit along, please use the hashtag, post your progress pictures on Instagram, and I thought, just to make it a little more fun, that I would add a prize. So for everyone who participates between now and July 31st, and by participate, I mean even just a progress picture. You don't have to finish, but it has to be more than the cast on. So even just posting a progress picture, if you just want to participate in the knit along and be a part of the community, I will draw a random winner after the end of July. And I used to make and sell stitch markers, and these, I don't know how well you can see them, are tiny little cinnamon rolls. So somebody will win a set of 5 tiny cinnamon roll stitch markers. And so it's just a simple, basic prize, but I just thought it would be fun. I don't sell my knitting or stitch markers much anymore. I prefer to knit selfishly, and I'm just destashing a lot of what I had made previously by donating as prizes or giving as gifts, and so I'm just having fun with my leftover stock that way. So let's move on to other recent finished objects. My family went camping for a couple of weeks, and so I had some decent knitting time, mostly in the car, and I knew I wanted to make my dad a pair of Father's Day socks. And I had made boot socks for my mom and for my brother, so I thought I would go ahead and make a pair of boot socks for my dad. And I cast on the Morsehell socks in fingering weight held double, so it was basically the DK in the pattern, but I didn't swatch, and I didn't like the fabric, and I didn't decide I didn't like the fabric, of course, until I got like halfway through the foot. So an entire day of knitting, and I tried them on my husband in the evening to get a gauge of where I was, and I didn't love them. And he kept saying, no, they're fine, but they were so loose that I decided to pull them out and start over. And I started over with the Thanksgiving sock pattern because I had done it before with the same sock yarn, and I knew how it would come out, and I went ahead and did the ribbed version this time. So I made this pair using some odds and ends. I had some blue left over from my mom and my brother's socks, and some of this variegated green, and all of it was put together with, this is held double, so you can see the colors in the main skein. The one that runs all the way through the sock is this blue, white, green, and black, which was a Crystal Skies hand-dyed sock yarn in the colorway Nagini. And you can see the green again in the foot, and then there was a blue and white in all the other areas that I held with that main skein. So they're a double thickness sock, and I hope he likes them. They blocked out super soft, but I definitely feel like the ribbing, since I couldn't try them on him as I went, gives more room for error because of how it will hug the foot and the leg a little bit more. And I did love the Morsehell sock pattern, and I'm gonna start it again, but for myself this time, so I can try it on as I go, and probably in the single thickness, in just the regular sock yarn, not the double thickness, because I really did like the heel construction, and I really do want a nice vanilla sock for myself. Something I can carry around and not worry too much about. The other thing about these is it was my first time using 9-inch circulars, and I loved that. So I may have gone from no pairs of 9-inch circulars to 4 pairs of 9-inch circulars, and I have no idea how that happened. So other recent finished objects, I made a leaf washcloth. It's still on the blocking mat. It's probably dry enough to take off now, but my friend actually was trimming down her plant collection and repotting some of the babies her plants had and stuff, and she posted them for trade. and asked people what they'd be willing to trade for plants. And I offered a washcloth or wool dryer balls, and she picked washcloth. So a leaf washcloth theme seemed like it would be most on theme for her. And so I'm excited to take that over to her this week and get my new plant. I think it's going to be a monstera, and I've never had one, but I have a pot ready for it and a place for it, so I'm very excited. I try really hard not to kill plants, but I'm not super good at it. My husband even bought me a book called How Not to Kill Your Houseplant, and I'm working on it. The only thing that I have consistently kept alive has been a pothos, which is pretty easy. So, that was the majority of recent finished objects, because this took, while it was a very quick knit, it took most of my car knitting time, and then all of our other time was spent hiking and not necessarily knitting. So let's see, works in progress next. I did finish one of the clearly determined socks that I showed last time. Let me grab it. I haven't tucked in the ends or anything, because why would I have done that? But you can see, hopefully, that pretty braid that I showed last time that goes down the foot and down the side of the heel and everything, and a nice rounded toe. So these are sock blockers from Knitting Left on Etsy, and I love them. I treated myself to 2 pairs when I did a test knit on some socks, and I needed child size ones to get really good photos. So I have them in small and in child, and this is the Sock Witch pattern. But they're beautiful sock blockers, and I love them. So I know I warned you that I'm really bad about second sock syndrome, and I did get it. So I have cast on the second sock, but I haven't even finished establishing the ribbing. Literally, I cast on the second sock. And then I got distracted by the Father's Day socks, and then the ranunculus. And then I started the V-back tee, which I may have talked about in the last episode. I think that I showed you the item I was going to frog, which was the bowline, and I said I was going to reknit the yarn as the V-back tee. And I have started. So I actually love how it's coming out. The pooling does not bother me this time, the way it's pooling. You can see here is where the increases make the V. It's very hard to show because of how the stitches are together. So that's where the increases make the V, and because the pooling is on the diagonal now, I like it much more than I did when it was vertical and it was huge globs of color. I did start alternating skeins because I realized when looking through my skeins that 2 of them had this really dark purple in them, and one of them didn't have any of that really dark. You can see I started with one that didn't have any of the super dark purple, so hopefully I started alternating soon enough that it doesn't look odd. But I still love the colors. I love how this is coming together. It is a small needle size for the number of stitches going on here. So each round takes a while. Every round right now is about 400 stitches because I'm doing the 3rd size on the pattern, just based on my bust size and the ease I wanted. I wanted a drapey summer tee, not a really fitted. It just feels like a really fitted item right now in this heat and this humidity would just feel terrible. So I wanted just a drapey summer tee, and once again, I didn't swatch, but I did stop recently actually and double check my gauge, both my stitch and row gauge. And yes, I know that I will have to block it, but I am actually counting on the growth from the blocking. And since I have used quite a bit of the Violet Valentine's sock yarn. I have knit a number of things, including a whole sweater in her sock yarn. I know how it blocks and how it behaves when it comes off the needles, and I've actually done enough things in a similar needle size in her sock yarn that I had a generally good idea of how things would come out. So I don't feel like I was living too dangerously on that one. But the V-back tee is a definite yes from me so far, and it does seem like it's going to be a little bit of slow progress, but I will keep you all updated on that one. I'm excited about it so far. I am also working on some Christmas stockings, and I know it's June, but every year I think I'm going to make newer, nicer Christmas stockings, because the ones that we have are from when I had my very first house and I knew that I would wake up there on Christmas morning. All the years previously, I had gone to my parents' house and spent Christmas Eve, because I had lived in California since college, and so I would come home for Christmas and I'd be staying with them. So I'd wake up in their house. So I didn't hang stockings. I did a tree, but I didn't hang stockings and stuff like that at my apartment. So when I bought my first house and I knew that I would wake up there Christmas morning, my now husband, then boyfriend, bought me a new tree, and I made Christmas stockings for us and the dog. And then when our daughter was born, we started using the third stocking for her. So then when our son was born, I made a fourth stocking, but I didn't dig the other three out of the attic first to check them, and his ended up a totally different size from everyone else's, and the colors didn't match, and they're just kind of odd. And they're chunky yarn, quick knit, because I just wanted to get it done. And I wanted something like really classic and beautiful and just elegant, something that I was going to want to hang every year. So I really want to do 4 new Christmas stockings. And I took these on the trip with us, and it turns out this is not a good car project, because the chart is complicated enough that I need to look at it the whole time. It's a really pretty cable, and you can see I didn't get very far because I get car sick, so reading a chart in the car is very hard for me. But this is the cuff of the stocking, which actually ends up folded over, but this cable runs around the cuff, and I just think it's really gorgeous. And I am excited to do these. I would like to do one in green and one in red, and then switch to another cabled stocking pattern and do the same. I do have the pattern in this awesome pattern keeper from Magpie Wishes, and I have a couple of these because they are very handy. They're magnetic, and I don't lose my place because they have lots of little magnetic rulers to hold the pattern down. But you can see, I don't want to share too much, although I think it might have been a free pattern. I don't recollect off the top of my head. But I needed to keep the chart in my eyesight because something happens in the cabling every other row. So there's not a rest period of just following the stitches. You just keep going and going and going. But I really do, hope you can see that. I really do like the pattern, and I think it's going to be very beautiful and very elegant when I'm done with it. It's just going to be a labor of love. It's going to take me a little while. I think once I get to the actual sock part of it, past the cuff, it will get to be where I can memorize it until that next little cable section. And that should go a whole lot quicker. But I'm just using Knit Pick's Brava worsted, because I wanted something that I didn't have to worry about in the attic. I didn't want to worry about moths and bugs and things. So this is really inexpensive also. And I liked the green when it got here, but the red I picked was more wine colored than I thought it was going to be. So I'm going back and forth on whether I want to reorder something in a brighter red or go with that more cranberry color. So just trying to decide how I feel about that. But either way, I started with the green stocking, and it's just going to be an ongoing project. I don't even know if I'll finish it for this Christmas. I'd like to, but I don't know if I will. I'm going to try. So that is another work in progress. You might remember the Easy Eyelet cardigan from the last episode, and that is in time out because it's just eating up yarn like so much quicker than it should be. So I need to stop and recheck my row gauge and think about how much yarn I have left versus how long the cardigan is going to get, because I don't really want a bolero. I wanted a really nice throw-on style cardigan. And you can see that I've only gotten this far adding one of the sleeves. Like I said I was going to do last time, I put the body stitches on hold, started in on the sleeves, and it's just running through yarn so quickly. I did go up a needle size for the sleeves because I did find that I knit more tightly in a small circumference, and that was a tip I learned from watching Andrea Mowry's videos and reading her patterns, is that a lot of people, their sleeves end up too tight because they really need to go up a size when they're doing a small circumference. And I did find that to be true. I get looser on my large circumference knitting and then tighter on the small, so I did go up a needle size. And honestly, I'm looking at it going, should I have gone up 2 needle sizes, which seems insane, but potentially could help. So I may rip the sleeve back and start again, up a second needle size, see what happens there. But so that's where I am in works in progress. I'm going to stop and grab a quick drink. My garden is full of mint and blue spice basil right now, so I have multiple kinds of mint. I made a green tea, so it's so hot, and just dumped all that mint and that blue spice basil in there, and I'm hoping that it has developed a really nice flavor. I've been letting it sit for a bit. I hope you guys have something delicious to drink. So the next thing we should move on to, I suppose, is acquisitions. I'm running through this a lot more quickly than I thought I would. I made myself some notes, but I have a number of acquisitions. More than maybe I should. But, you know, who can resist a little shopping? The first one I'm going to start with is actually knitting adjacent. It is not yarn or a project bag. It is actually a big pile of stickers. So Smeeny Beanie Knits, and I will type that up on Instagram, has these amazing knitting stickers that are also camping related and outdoor related. And I bought a whole package because I couldn't resist. And I'm going to stick them all over my water bottles and our roof box that rides on our car. I love this one, this Gone Knitting. This is just so cute with the tent. But I think this is my favorite. This says Maker Bag, and it's got a tin cup and a sleeping bag and yarn and boots and a backpack, and it's just super cute. And her mission is to get people to not only enjoy knitting, but really to get outside and enjoy the wildness of nature. So you should look her up on Instagram, Smeeny Beanie Knits. And I'm so excited about those stickers. They came the day before we left on our trip, and I just had analysis paralysis on where to stick them, so I hadn't done it yet, but I will, because they definitely need to be seen and used and loved. The next thing I got, actually right before we left also, was my monthly sock box came from Southern Skeins. And this time the color was called Cosmic, and the mini skein is called Energy. And I love it. It's bright and happy and summery, and I have not decided what to do with it yet. it seems like it could make a great magpie tendency, which is another one skein, super loose knit top that the pattern is available for purchase on Ravelry, and I'm not sure if she has it somewhere else, but I'll check. Um, but it's really bright and happy, and I kind of wish I had a second skein, but I only ordered a single skein in May because I was going back and forth, and in April I had ordered two skeins because I thought, okay, it'll be spring colors and I can make a garment with it because I love knitted tees right now. I'm just really into lightweight, floaty, knitted summertime things because it's so hot. But the April color came, and it's called Coleus. And it looks like it's showing fairly accurately on the screen. I'm sure it is somebody's cup of tea, but it is not my color. It is all warm tone and kind of muddy. And the mini skein is called Peat, and it is brown with green. And like I said, I'm sure it's somebody's color, but it is not at all my color. And so now I have two skeins of it and a mini, and I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. And the last time I had ordered two skeins, it was kind of like, okay, but when I would order one skein, it would get here and I'd be like, I wish I had two. So I went back and forth, and I'd only ordered one. And I do love the May color, so I think it's just Murphy's Law or something. Like if I order two, it's going to be a color that's not my color, and if I order one, it's going to be fabulous. I'm going to love it, and so maybe I should just stick to ordering one, and that way I fall in love with every single box. But I've been ordering the Southern Skeins monthly surprise sock box since January of 2020, when I spent way too much time shopping because I was stuck in bed after hip surgery. So I may have ordered myself like 3 or 4 different mystery boxes that month while I was laying there because I adore surprises. And so, yes, occasionally I get things that aren't really my color, and I save them and make socks or things for other people. Sometimes a color comes and I think, oh, that's not for me, but my son would love that color, or my mom or my brother. So I like the surprise aspect of surprise boxes, and Southern Skeins is on Etsy if you want to look them up. But the sock box is always fun. It always has like a tea and a progress keeper and a little surprise of some sort, and then the sock skein and the mini. And this sock skein is 463 yards, so it's might almost be considered a light fingering. And then the mini skein is 92 yards. So it's 100 grams for that 463 yards and 20 grams for that 92 yards. So, but same yarn that I used to make my ranunculus top, same dyer. So obviously I am fond of her yarn, and it is soft to the touch and wonderful to use. I've said a lot this episode. I apologize. Next acquisition, though, is, I did it again, not hand-dyed yarn, not even expensive yarn, not even boutique yarn. It is actually just Lion brand. My daughter and I were in Joann's Fabrics because she needed fabric for a project at summer camp. It was a requirement that she bring 1.5 to 2 yards of fabric. So we were there shopping for her fabric, and she had picked a few things out, and we went and wandered the sale aisle, and this colorway was on clearance. So we picked up 2 of them because she really liked it, and I really like it. I mean, I would totally make myself something with this. But it's 100% acrylic, and it's easily washable, and I thought I would make her a flax sweater. Because last fall, I made my son a flax sweater in the 4 to 6 size, and it took only one of these cakes in this, I forget the colorway, But this sweater is just one cake of this Lion brand Mandala. So I figured 2 skeins, I could probably easily make I'd probably make the 10 or 10 to 12-year-old size. I'd need to look at the pattern again to choose specifically. But like I said, this was the 4 to 6-year-old size, only took 1. And I like it because it is less than $10 worth of yarn. And so he can wear it anytime he wants. He has a handmade item that he can wear outside to play. He can wear to school. He can wear anywhere that he chooses. And I don't worry about it. I don't stress about if he's going to mess it up or if he pulls it a little bit. I just work it back in. But it's just easy to throw in the wash, easy care, which is great for kids. And I highly recommend just making your kids something, if you have kids, that you're not worried about, because you want them to love and appreciate the knits. Like there's grass stuck to his sweater, which is fine because he actually wore it camping, and it got little bits in it, but that's okay. Easy to wash, easy to care for. So I got those beautiful skeins for my daughter to do the same thing. And then I also, since I love surprises, ordered myself the summer Year of Minis Cottage Collection from Clark Elle. And in this bag are 13 little bags, and they are all numbered. This one's number 3. And they are numbered for the weeks of summer. And I'm sure some people used them to count down to summer. There are 13 mini skeins in here, plus 1 full-size skein. So I thought about it, and some people are using them to count down to the summer solstice, but I am going to draw out the pleasure of opening them, and I'm going to open 1 every week of summer, because there are 13 for the 13 weeks of summer. And since I love surprises and I enjoy the anticipation, I think that that's going to be a lot of fun for me. What I haven't decided is, do I open the big skein on the summer solstice, or do I open the big skein at the end, at the very end, after all the minis have been opened to celebrate the end of summer? So feel free to post your opinion in the comments. Totally open to suggestion. I have until next week to figure this out. Monday, actually. But I'm excited about those. Let's see. I think that was... Oh, no, that wasn't it. Because a package came yesterday, and I had fully expected to have it in episode 3, because I tried to film this episode on Sunday, and it just ended up too rushed, and I lost the light, and it just wasn't working. So I stopped and said, okay, I'll wait. And a package came yesterday, and it had 2 things in it, but I can't show you the second one because it is a gift, and I want the person to be surprised. So this, which I already showed you, has my VBAC tee in it, but this is a Sassy Sacks project bag, and it was either the large or the extra large. Now I don't recollect, but I can check and put that in the notes. But I love bright and happy, and you can see that this is super bright and happy, and it holds quite a lot. So I could probably get, just because of my size, as long as it wasn't a bulky, I could probably get most of a sweater in there. For now, you know, summer t-shirt, but cinches closed, and I just think it's really pretty. I'm excited about that. I did spend some time cleaning I know it doesn't look like it's terrible, cleaning my craft room and going through all of my bags and remembering, oh, I have this bag that would make a great project bag, and I have this bag that would make a great project bag, and just things I hadn't thought about in a long time. So I was very excited to actually go through that and start putting my projects into pretty little bags. And I don't know if that seems silly to anybody else. I mean, I do keep a lot of them just sitting by my knitting corner in our bedroom, but to have them all in bright, pretty little bags that I can just grab and take with me in the car, just to have, if I have a few minutes of downtime or whatever, I think is a lot of fun. I like to keep socks in this one that my husband gave me, which I think is cute. And it came from our local yarn store, which is currently called Loops, and they are rebranding as Knit Stars. I enjoy having things in adorable little bags, and I think based on the number of people I see talking about project bags that a lot of other people do too. So, a couple of projects that I want to make that I was going to talk about. I want to make birthday socks for my husband. His birthday is in July. So I was thinking single thickness socks, like just regular socks, and I haven't picked a pattern or anything yet. I might just go with vanilla socks, but if you have a good manly pattern that does well with super variegated yarn, feel free to suggest it. This is Tempted Yarns. It's fingering weight, 400 yards, 100% superwash merino. The name is 25 to Life, and it's been in my stash forever because this is also my husband's, the college he graduated from, their colors. So I was going to do a cute pair of socks for him. You can see it's bright orange and black, and it's highly variegated. So I'm wondering if the best thing for this yarn is just to be a vanilla sock so that it shows the color nicely and a pattern doesn't get lost in the drastic color changes. But that's on my upcoming to-do list, and probably need to start that really soon or I won't get those finished. And then I wanted to ask if people had suggestions for a pattern that would make just a beautiful throw on anytime cozy sweater that I could use 100% suri alpaca on, like not hold it with anything, just I'm willing to hold it double, but I would like to make something that is just suri alpaca because it's so soft against the skin, and I fell in love with it in my striped sweater, and I just adore the feel, and I have the perfect color. Let's see if I can find it without making a mess. I have a lot of yarn. Never too much though, right? Never too much yarn. But I have this beautiful purple. It's called Violet Icing, and it's from Pancake and Lulu. And don't worry about the yardage. Plenty of yardage. But I would like to make a whole sweater for myself. Not too fitted, something that's just cozy, throw on, wear all day, luscious. So feel free to throw suggestions down below. I would love to be inspired by what you've done or what you have your eye on. I like seeing what other people have going and what they think is cute and comfy. Another thing that I would like to make soon, I think, is the framework bralette, which is a DK weight bralette. I have this skein of Ocean Pearl by Subculture Yarns already caked up because I applied for a test knit for a bralette that was a DK weight. And I never heard back, which is fine. I'm sure it filled up, but I thought I'd find another bralette to make with this same yarn because it's beautiful. It's got all this really, it's getting blown out, but maybe that's better. All this really beautiful color running through it, and I thought it would be really cute under overalls or shortalls. I wouldn't just wear the bralette with shorts probably because I'm not comfortable enough to do that, but I think that with overalls or shortalls it could be really cute. If you've made the framework bralette, let me know how you like it, how you liked the pattern, or if there's another one that you like or suggest. I just have this single skein, so I had looked at maybe some crop tanks also, but I'm leaning towards that framework bralette. But the yardage in this, if you have another pattern to suggest, is only 285 yards. So it's not a ton of yardage. So probably not enough for like a whole tank. That's why I was thinking bralette. Or if you have another bralette that you've made that you just really, really love, I was just browsing bralette patterns, and that framework bralette had such nice details to it, and it was within the right weight and the right yardage, and so I just thought that that might be a good choice for this one. And I may even, because it looks like it would knit up super fast, I may even do it soon, like alongside working on the V-back tee, which I think is going to take a lot longer. Like I said, each round is like 400 stitches, so each round takes a while. And I'm to the point in the V-back tee where I'm just going, basically. So there are increases and decreases to keep the V going, but they even out, they equal out. At this point, it's no longer steady increasing. I'm to the point where it's equal. So it's pretty easy to just keep going round and round and round. So I may add the framework bralette into my works in progress. If you happen to have stumbled upon my blog, you'll know that I was a super monogamous knitter for the last year or so, and then recently just went with my projects. So projects everywhere, projects out the wazoo, but that's okay, right? Are you a monogamous knitter, or do you have like 20 things on the needles at one time? I'm just super curious what other people do. Well, I think that pretty much covers it for this episode, except that I wanted to mention my inspirations really quick for doing the podcast. So the podcasts that really inspired me to get started were Knitting Traditions and Woolly Witchcraft, and Brogan was super encouraging. And then also Wool Needles Hands, a knitting podcast, which is put on by Fiber for the People. It's Taylor Earle. If you've never watched her, you should, because her podcast is super engaging and probably was the very first knitting podcast that I really got into and started watching regularly, and then ended up stumbling upon other knitting podcasts. It wasn't something that I had done previously, watch podcasts at all. So from there, I stumbled upon Knitting Traditions, and from there, Woolly Witchcraft, and I've really enjoyed those. And then from Woolly Witchcraft, I stumbled upon the Knitting Pickle, and I have been enjoying her episodes recently. So I just wanted to thank all of those people for inspiring me to talk about what I'm up to, and for coming into my living room and knitting alongside me through their episodes, and making me feel just like I have company. And that, I think, is my favorite thing about podcasts on YouTube, and not just listening to a podcast, but actually being able to see people's work and engage with their projects and be inspired by the colors and the stitches and just every beautiful thing that people are making. And then I just wanted to thank every single person who commented on my first episode. Everyone was so positive and encouraging, and I am just absolutely shocked that I'm already over 100 subscribers. And I know that doesn't seem like a lot to people who have been doing this a long time, but it just blows my mind that people want to be notified, like care enough to subscribe. And so I just want to thank every single person who liked or subscribed or commented. And I really hope that you can let me know what you're up to and what inspires you and just how you're doing. So comment or like the video. Like, I really, really appreciated it. It definitely gives me that feeling of engagement with the knitting community that I've been missing, especially since the pandemic started, but even just as life got busier with having kids and not being able to go to regular knit nights as often. It's just a camaraderie that I missed so much, and I know that the knitting community is a wonderful community of people who engage with each other, uplift each other, support each other, and I just appreciate everybody who's done that for me. So thank you so much, and I hope that you will come back next time. I hope to not take as long between episodes, but sometimes it's hard to get time in a quiet, peaceful house in order to record, so it could be hit or miss on the length of time between. But thank you for being here, and I will see you next time.